Welcome to Tales from the 90s. And as you see, we're on episode number 22. Does that mean it's the season finale? No, we're just like in September, our season is just getting started. Let's go.
Tales from the 90s never die. In our hearts they testify. VCRs and mixtape spins, where every tale begins. Tales from the crypt, marathons, wrestling wars and morning yawns. Play kickball in the street, man, those days can't be beat. Tales from the 90s never die.
That's right, I guess if our show had a season, I guess it would end after we do every year in the 90s, and I gotta figure out what to do with this podcast. But anyway, if you're new to here to Tales from the 90s, we go back and look at, I pick a certain month and a certain year, it's never in order, but of the 90s, and we go back and we talk about, I say we, it's just me, I don't know why I say we, but talk about, what was going on there, either in the news, or sports, or music, or pretty much anything. I have a whole bunch of different topics I look up, and I'm always adding stuff to the list of things I want to talk about. Talk about some personal memories too. Try to give a little bit of backstory if you've never seen us before. You don't know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about my family. But yeah, this is episode number 22. We're going back to September of 1990. 1990. I said that weird. This is our third trip into 1990. I was 6 and just started first grade this year. Went to Mercer Elementary. It was in Newtown, Ohio, in Claremont County, Ohio, which is where my grandma lived. My granny and Papa Jesse. That's who we lived with at the time. Me and my mom and my brother Josh. And before we actually get into the episode, I want to talk about some bonus episodes coming up. I'm putting out all kinds of content. Got a bonus episode. Try to do one a month, like a kind of a really big episode. This one's actually coming March 31st. So the last day of this month, which is a Monday. It's a tribute to basically WrestleMania. It's called WrestleMania Memories, Matches, and Moments. And I go through my memories of WrestleMania and then give a top 20 of, my opinion, not anybody else's. The top 20 matches and the top 20 moments. Some of the moments are matches, but they're not really like, the high match quality, you expect out of, the top matches. It's just moments that I remember. And, you guys can make your own list too if you like wrestling. If you don't, sorry. Spoiler alert, there's no actual wrestling on this episode I'm talking about, or this episode today, because there was no pay-per-views there's no pay-per-views for wrestling this month, no title changes, and not even any really big event. September 1990 was kind of like a nothing month for wrestling, so I'm just going to skip talking about it, even though I just did. But yeah, that's Monday, March 31st. I've started a Friday night karaoke thing where basic premise of it is I start with a song that I pick, and then YouTube gives suggestions of what's next. I pick out of the first 3 I see, and then pick a song. Even if it's a song I don't know, I'm not looking up the lyrics. I'm just going to do it. However, this week's a little bit different. I've had some requests for some weird songs. I've had 3 requests. One's normal. 2 are just off the wall. So I had to bring in one of my old buddies, if you've never seen anything on my channel before, Crackhead Dave, to sing a couple songs on that one. Well, more than a couple. But if you like comedy, well, at least I think it's comedy. It might be hilarious to you that I think I'm funny. But if you like comedy, it's in there. If you like actual attempts at singing music, that's in there too. I promise. There's both in there. I promise. And I've been doing a watch along of one of my favorite Ernest tapes as a kid. Hey Vern, it's my Hey Vern, it's my family album. Ernest P. Worrell, Jim Varney. It was my favorite tape as a kid. It's about 45 minutes long, but it has different segments, so I broke it up into that. And I did a watch along, so those segments will be coming out soon. And of course, there's always my video game playthroughs. Sorry, this is one big commercial for my stuff. Video game playthroughs. I do different classic games. I've got a bunch of Nintendo 64 stuff that I played on there on emulator. I don't have a Nintendo 64 anymore, sadly. But I've been doing the Sonic Adventure series from Dreamcast. I'm playing on PS3. It's the director's cut of it. I've been going through that, kind of in the early stages of that. I've had like 5 videos out. But check those out. And for something a little bit different than all this stuff, starting Sunday, I've already filmed the first episode. It's Sunday Testimonials. Yes, you heard it right. I'll be talking about faith and Christian beliefs and stuff like that. Just the first episode is kind of just my journey through it. It's kind of a rambling episode where I just kind of give my experiences with church and everything. I don't know exactly what it's going to be every week. I'm not trying to be a preacher. I'm just trying to help people find their way to God, and if I can do anything to help people start their journey, that's the whole point of that. It's not any kind of entertainment like trying to be funny or another comedy skit like I do. In fact, it'll be on my YouTube, not on my podcast page on Facebook. Or it'll be on Facebook, but not my podcast page. And also, I'm creating a special YouTube just for it because I don't want it mixed in with the entertainment and get people confused. But that's just some of the different content I'm trying to put out. I got a frog in my throat today. That's not good. I'm just starting. Sorry, in the future I won't give all these commercials at the beginning. But anyway, speaking of commercials, we got those coming soon. But first off, I want to talk about this time period. Like I said, I was living with my grandma. And it was in Newtown. It was after we'd moved out of my mom's boyfriend, Josh's dad's trailer, I think it was. Bad situation there. I've talked about it before. I don't want to get bogged down by talking about it again in this one. But as far as I remember, we were happy living there with Granny because that was our favorite place. And just, I've talked about some of the memories before, going through the house and all the different rooms and stuff. And one thing I forgot to talk about was in the kitchen. Besides finding Papaw Jesse sitting there listening to his bluegrass all day at the kitchen table when he wasn't watching the Atlanta Braves at night or the afternoon if it was a weekend, you always find my granny in there cooking. But another thing you'd always find in there is this, I don't even know what it's called. It's a shelf, but it's in the cabinet, but it spins like it's not really a drawer. I guess I don't know what you call it, but it spins completely around like a 360. So you gotta just think of it as a circle set into a cabinet, and you've got food or whatever there's food in there, cans, boxes, whatever happened to be in there. But you open it up and you spun it around and you get what you wanted, and then it goes back around. Well, all of us kids were always playing with this, and we weren't supposed to. But I think they eventually got tired of telling us to stop, so they just let us play with it because they knew what would happen eventually. But we would spin it around. Sometimes we pretend we were on Price is Right doing the big showcase wheel. But never failed. At least once a day, one of us would get our finger caught in that thing, because that was a heavy wooden thing that came spinning around. And you don't get your finger out of the way, it gets it. Me, my brothers, my cousins, how any of us, probably my aunts and my mom, I don't know how any of us got through that with all our fingers intact. But it's just funny the things you can remember. And it had such an interesting floor too. I still remember the pattern. I wish I had a picture of it so I could show you. But this is just, I could go on and on about that house all day. But I want to talk a little bit about going to the store. Because it was, what I usually remember is my mom taking Granny to the store. And we would go too normally. Till we got old enough, they left me there because all the crap I pulled. But yeah, we'd go to the store, and the crap I pulled, something on my tongue. I don't know what that is. Anyway, I try not to edit too much stuff out here. Leave all the screw-ups in. But, yeah. Speaking of screw-ups, I was a screw-up as a kid. I gave my mom and granny so much trouble in the store. I would lay there when I was like 2 or 3. This is before then. I was 6 then, but it wouldn't surprise me if I was still doing it then. I would lay there and scream and throw a fit. And probably this time, probably when I was 6, is I'd wander off on my own like an idiot. And of course, being little, a store's bigger to you then than it is now. But by the way, I think the store we went to all the time was Thriftway. It's a Cincinnati store. I don't even think they're in business anymore. If they are, let me know if you're from Cincinnati. But anyway, I would wander off, and then I'd probably check one aisle, be like, oh, I'm lost. Run up to the front and have them call my mom's name over the speaker. And she can attest to this. I did this many times, and it embarrassed the crap out of her. She was so mad. I was bad in the freaking stores. It's a wonder that I ever freaking got any treats. But I remember specifically the one thing my granny would always get. Those soft batch cookies. I can't remember the brand. They're called soft batch cookies, though. The chocolate chip cookies. And those things are the greatest. But she'd always get us those, and we'd be able to eat them in the store as we're going, and the package would be half gone by the time we checked out. But those are just the best. And just some of the stuff that Granny got for us to eat. Before I was ever introduced to school pizza, it was these little round pizzas that we would get. I think they'd come with like 4 to a row, and there'd be a couple rows of them, or maybe there was just 4 in each one, and I can't remember exactly. But they're a little cheese pizza, I think. There might have been pepperoni too, I can't remember. But just little pizzas that she'd put in the oven for us, and they were the greatest things ever. But my favorite thing she ever made for us was her homemade French fries. She would make them in her cast iron skillet with oil and just cut up potatoes with some whatever seasoning she put on there was great, and just give it a little bit of ketchup, and man, that was just the greatest. Sit there and watch Nickelodeon, or it was usually Nickelodeon. Sometimes Saturday morning cartoons, but usually at her house we were watching Nickelodeon because we never experienced cable before then. I don't think. Watching on the little wooden console TV. Well, it wasn't little. It was kind of big for its time. It wasn't a big screen, but one of those gigantic TVs that like weighed more than a house, it seemed. But yeah, that was just so much fun then. And I remember being 1990, me and Josh were obsessed with the Turtles. By the way, Josh is my brother, if you haven't guessed. He is 4 and a half years younger than me, I think. Yeah, 4.5 years younger than me. But we were obsessed with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Obviously, the concert from Radio City Music Hall in New York, the little Turtle concert that came out on pay-per-view, they actually recorded there. My mom recorded there at Granny's, and we had that tape forever. I wish I still had the tape. I mean, you can find this concert on YouTube. It's hilarious. But we were obsessed with them. We had turtle pajamas. I remember one year I got, because back then when, I'm sure people still do it. If you got younger siblings that don't really understand birthdays, if you get a present on your birthday, sometimes your younger sibling would get a birthday present too. Not always, but I got the one year I got Leonardo was my favorite, and Josh got a Donatello. A plush turtle was probably about like this tall. Yeah, like I said, we had turtle pajamas. We went as turtles one year for Halloween. Of course, him Donatello, me Leonardo. But yeah, just that was some great stuff. And then of course I was starting first grade at this time, and it was a whole lot different than kindergarten. Kindergarten weird thing I remember about kindergarten is of course you're playing a lot, but they had these like different like stations at this kindergarten I went to. I believe it was in Kentucky when we were still living there. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, and it was in Newtown. But there's different stations of different things to do. Like they had these like beans you played with. I don't know why that always sticks into my head. Is they had like a tub full of beans. I don't know if you're supposed to count them or what. It's a wonder people didn't eat them. It's like dry beans. But just the difference between kindergarten and first grade. It's like, okay, where's all the fun? Where's the nap time? Where's my snack at? No, you don't get that now. You're gonna start learning to do all this stuff. You're gonna start learning to write. You know, you get those big, I don't know if they still have them now, the big brown papers with the huge lines on them that you got, you know, that they teach kids. I don't know if they still use those or not. Probably use the freaking iPad or Google Chromebook things. I assume they still teach people to write. I mean, I don't know. It'd be weird experiencing school like now as a first grader. Compare, you know, if you've experienced school as a first grader when I did back in 1990. But anyway, that's just a little bit of my memories. You know, if you don't know me or and my family, you won't, you know, get those memories attached. But you guys probably have your own memories that you like. You're like, oh yeah, I remember this. And sometimes the littlest things will trigger something. It's like, I ain't thought of that in years. Wow, you know. Usually when that happens, I write it down so I can talk about it on a podcast. But just some great memories. But right now we want to do one of our newer segments. It's the watch along for commercials. This one's a little bit less than 10 minutes, about 9 something. This is from September 29th of 1990. It was during CBS Saturday morning cartoons. And a little later when we talk about Saturday morning cartoons, I'll actually be doing this date too, so it'll be the commercials are actually from the cartoons I'll be talking about later. But let's go to those now. So we've got these commercials now from September 29th, 1990 from CBS Morning Cartoons. So let's go.
Hey, Bill and Ted will return after these messages.
Oh, this is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure cartoon.
There's something new in Gotham City.
It's Batman!
Like you've never seen.
I remember that Batman.
Figures and vehicles sold separately.
Marky does Batman.
I remember the golden Batman with the wings. I never had one, but
Poison can't hurt my tech shield suit. Bye, Batman.
obviously based on the 89 classic Batman movie.
Ah, where does he get these great weapons? You're finished, Joker.
Tech Shield Batman,
Man.
Batcopter and Joker sold separately. Part of Batman, the Dark Knight collection.
That stuff was just so cool.
Come on.
Sorry if the volume's a little low on these commercials. Burger King Kids Club. I definitely remember those kids.
Burger King's taking Homer, Marge, and all the
Those are the most generic looking,
you know who.
horrible looking Simpsons characters.
Character and Kathy
Come on, Burger King. Could you do better than that?
The Burger King Kids Club, just for fun, just for
Those look so horrible.
Listen, here he comes.
Cheerios, classic.
Hey, we better finish some Cheerios. Yeah.
It's part of this complete breakfast.
It's not complete till I put about 6 cups of sugar over it. Best part about that was at the end you get to scrape the sugar off the bottom with the milk. Not the most healthy, obviously. It's a wonder I don't have diabetes.
And more boxes of Cheerios, plus a chance to join the Bo Jackson fan club with your
Bo Jackson.
And now, back to Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted will return after these messages.
What's hot? Hot Wheels. What's cool? California Custom.
Hot Wheels with tracks. You can't go wrong with those.
Solid surfer stickers. Cool speed.
I remember those.
Solid wheels. California Custom.
You could basically like turn them almost into like NASCAR looking things.
California Cool. California Custom. Slow motion.
I always wanted a track like that. Anytime we got one, we ended up losing the parts anyway.
Some cars and Huawei Sunset each sold separately. Cars not for use with Sunsets.
Check out my Rice Krispies.
Rice Krispies, time to add more sugar.
For you to go upstairs and make my bed.
Hey, they were trying to advertise healthy cereals. It's not their fault that we poured sugar on all the healthy cereals.
I didn't know we could sing.
And now we're from Kellogg's Rice Krispies. The fun part of the complete breakfast. I can hear them speaking to me.
Who ever heard of a talking cereal?
These shots Jokers who likes them.
What do your Rice Krispies say to you?
Don't talk with your mouth full.
Oh boy. Teddy Grahams. I can't eat Teddy Grahams anymore. I had some that were like bad, where you could like taste the cardboard and stuff in them that gotten bad. And ever since then, anytime I try to eat them, all I taste is those bad ones. Sucks, because I used to eat Teddy Grahams all the time, especially those cinnamon ones. The chocolate ones were great too, but the cinnamon ones were my favorite. The honey, those were great.
It will only happen once. Witness.
What is this? The Flash? I remember watching that movie.
The Flash, premiering Thursday.
One of the few superhero movies I actually liked. Reminds me almost like Doug's opening there. This came out before Doug. Maybe Doug could rip them off. Of course, gotta have a toy for the girls. That had been so cool though, for girls to have that type of thing. You could like be like hairdressers and stuff, like just the cool stuff they came out with. It seems so simple.
Pretty Cotton Girl comes with comb, barrette, scissors, and extra hair, each sold separately from Play School.
Play School, of course. Here we go, McDonald's. Definitely more a teen-oriented McDonald's commercial here.
Well, son, I do this. Hey, okay, show's over. Give me the camera back. Cut, cut.
What we got now? This is the cereal war of 1990. Man, I remember that box. The apple cinnamon Cheerios. I remember the box looking like that.
Now you can get a Colorworks crayon stick.
Loved apple cinnamon Cheerios.
Free, along with a mystery game sheet. Especially marked boxes of apple cinnamon Cheerios.
See, that's back when you could actually get prizes in the cereal boxes and they actually be in the box. Between that and like the games and puzzles and mazes they put on the back of them, man, the cereal box was an experience in the 90s. The end of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, which I've never seen.
Coming up, it's time to drop in and party down at the Bizarro Place.
My dog's barking.
An all-new Pee-wee's Playhouse. Next on Kid TV.
Pee-wee's Playhouse. Spoiler alert, I recorded these commercials before I talked about that later on. You'll hear my thoughts on Pee-wee's Playhouse a little bit later. And the background noise is my air conditioner kicking on. Sorry. Not gonna burn up alive. Those trick bikes type things. I always loved mountain bikes more. My brothers loved the trick bikes with the pegs on the back. The BMX bikes, that's what they were called. I was more of a mountain bike fan. What is this? Look like some early version of Guts or something. It's not, but I don't know where this CBS was, what city it was. Houston. Okay. Trying to get kids to read. Never a bad thing to do there. Pee-wee's Playhouse was such a weird show. Fake out. Captain Crunch. See the cool stuff you get in cereal boxes? I actually have Crunchberry cereal in my house right now. Well, Walmart version. You get this gigantic box for like $3. But yeah, the classics. Something new, even though we just seen it. Yeah, but the classic three, the Captain Crunch, the Crunch Berries, and of course the Peanut Butter Crunch. Sorry I got sniffles with my allergies. It's allergy season starting. Yeah, you definitely see repeat commercials on here because, I mean, now they're advertising Batcopter more instead of the Batman. And again, we're getting the Burger King Kids Club. Are we going to see those horrible looking Simpsons again? Yep. I know it's like camping version, but still like it looks like you ordered the Simpsons off of Wish, even though they didn't have Wish then. We're going to see another repeat. Gotta love all these little "We'll be right back" bumpers that they had on Saturday morning cartoons. Oh, here we go, Alpha Bits and Marshmallow Alpha Bits. Just basically Cheerios and letter versions, and Lucky Charms with the marshmallows. I don't believe Alpha Bits cereal exists anymore, sadly. I almost guarantee there was kids spelling out cuss words. I never really had much of the cereal. I probably would have done it too. But thanks for joining us for the commercials. Let's get back to the podcast. Different kind of commercials on here. I've done one from regular primetime shows. I've done some local Cincinnati commercials. I've done some from Fox and from Nickelodeon. You know, it's always different to see all the different older commercials. It's the thing I always find the funniest is as a kid, you couldn't wait to get through these commercials. Like, come on, get me back to my show, get me back to my show. But as an adult, like, even when I'm not doing this, I'll sit and watch even longer blocks of classic commercials. Even though today when I watch TV, I'm still, get through the commercial. Maybe in 20 or 30 years, I'll look back on this time period's commercials and be like, man, I remember that. It unlocks the nostalgia part of your brain, which is pretty much what this podcast is dedicated to. But I'll talk a little bit about music now. In the past, I've told you that, country music is my favorite music. Especially in 1990, I wasn't listening to any pop music. But going back and looking at the Billboard Hot 100 charts, which is the pop charts, I've noticed a trend in pop music. Whereas in country music, you would have songs that wouldn't be number one for like too terribly long. Even though this month is the exception to that. This month is actually reversed of what I'm used to. I'm used to country songs having a couple weeks at number one, except the really big ones. A lot more competitive. Seems like the pop music, I've seen some songs that are number one for 4 or 5 months straight, and that's not exaggerating. But this month's kind of flipped on that. We start off with "If Wishes Came True" by Sweet Sensation. I have never heard of that song or that. I'm guessing it's a group, band, something in my life. "If Wishes Came True," Sweet Sensation. Don't know if it was a one-hit wonder or if, like I said, I've never listened. I listen to music from then now, but then I was, I was only ever listening to country music as what was on the radio, and it wasn't just that's all I got to listen to. Later on I actively, when I was picking my own radio stations, it's all I wanted to listen to because I tried some of the pop music and it's just like there's like nothing. But the next song is "Blaze of Glory" by John Bon Jovi, of course from Bon Jovi. But this is his period of time where he was doing his solo career. This is a movie from Young Guns 2, which he was in. Love this freaking song. Of course, I didn't know Bon Jovi then, and if I'd heard of him, I was like, oh, that's just a rock band or something. Now I count them as one of the greatest bands of any music of all time. I don't know if I'd put him in the top band, but if there was a top 10 list or even top 5, I'd probably put him there. But yeah, great song there. Sort of gives you the wanted dead or alive feeling. I've never actually seen the Young Guns movies. I want to, though, because my dad loved them, was always talking about them. But the next song was by Wilson Phillips. It was called Release Me. It was number 1 for 2 weeks in a row. Again, I knew who Wilson Phillips is barely, but don't know the song. And then the last one was Can't Live Without Your Love and Affection by Nelson. I don't know who that was. I don't. The only Nelson I know is Willie. Or Ha Ha from The Simpsons. But I don't think he was made. If he made a song, I'm going back and listening to it. But the countdown I listen to is American Country Countdown with Bob Kingsley. Every Sunday morning at 9, from 9 to noon, they would play the top 40 songs. And coming in at number 1 in September, and was actually number 1 2 weeks prior, so it was 3 weeks total, was Shenandoah's Next to You, Next to Me. And if there was one band that was like really hot in the early 90s, it was Shenandoah. And actually, this whole month was dominated by bands at number 1. The greatest country band of all time for sure is Alabama. I don't know if me personally would probably put them as the number 1 band of all music, you know. But definitely for country is Alabama. I mean, they had 43 or 44 number 1 hits. But their song Jukebox in My Mind was number 1 for 3 weeks total. And actually 1 week into October, so it was 4 weeks total. And then right after that came, but not this month, came the massive Garth Brooks Friends in Low Places. Once I get to the October of this month, I'll figure out how many weeks that was number 1. But yeah, country bands pretty much dominated this month. But there was one album that was released that was really big in this month. It was by Reba McEntire. It was her Rumor Has It album. It was her 16th studio album, and it was certified 3 times platinum. And if you don't know what that means, platinum status means it sold 1 million copies. So this sold at least 3 million. It was 3 million something. It contained a number of her biggest songs ever. And I mean, talk about her career. This was 1990, and it was her 16th album, and she still wasn't done then. But the title track, Rumor Has It, only went to number 3, which is surprising because that was a huge song. One of my personal favorites of her of all time is You Lie. That went to number 1. And then what's probably considered her signature song, Fancy, the one about the teenage girl that her mom sent her out to be a prostitute. I'm surprised that song got played, and it's probably why it only went to number 8 and didn't get to number 1. But yeah, it's pretty much her signature song. And then Falling Out of Love, another really good song, went to number 2. But yeah, in my opinion, all those songs could have been number 1. Only one of them was, but like I said, it was competitive in country radio. But I want to talk now about the Saturday morning cartoon lineup. The last few weeks, last 3 for sure, I've been doing the Nickelodeon lineups because I do put numbers into the random thing to pick the month and the year. And 3 weeks straight, I got June of different years. So, and if anybody knows TV schedules, June is rerun time. So it's kind of hard to find accurate, what was on because it was reruns anyway. Sometimes they would change up what was on. But I was like, next time we get during TV season, which is like September to May usually, I'm going to talk about something else. That way people don't get tired of Nickelodeon. Plus, I'd done that bonus episode. If you haven't checked that out, it's up. My top 50 Nickelodeon shows of all time. So I don't want people to get too Nickelodeon out. Although, is that even possible? But anyway, we're doing September 29th. Like I said, we did the commercials earlier, as you've seen, and this was the day those came from CBS. So I guess we'll start with their lineup. From 8 to 9, we got Muppet Babies, one of my favorite. Muppet Babies! I have to do that every time. It's like impossible to talk about the show without doing the stupid theme song. Love Muppet Babies. It was on my Nickelodeon list because I actually remember watching it there first, but obviously it was a first ran CBS show. Nickelodeon had a lot of shows from syndication that were on other networks that they ended up putting on theirs. That sometimes some of them I experienced there for the first time. Like the next one I'd seen on CBS first as Garfield and Friends. But it was also on Nickelodeon, so I had to include it on my list. It's a little lower in the list because, like I said, not much experience on Nickelodeon. But, I mean, I was always watching Garfield and Friends on Saturday mornings. Of course, the beginning, you have Garfield and Odie and their adventures. And then you go to the farm with Orson the pig in the second half. And it was a really good cartoon. And then, just like I was talking about before, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 10 to 11. They actually got the episode name on here. Were-Rats from Channel 6. And then Funny They Shrunk Michelangelo. I bet that's a funny one. I've actually got the whole series on DVD finally. I haven't even got to watch any of them yet, but I can't wait to dig into those. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. I never watched the movies, and I definitely never watched the cartoon. Then Pee-wee's Playhouse. As you've seen a commercial on there for that. I never watched Pee-wee's Playhouse, really. I mean, I did watch it a little bit, but not like something I sat down to watch. It was kind of weird to me. I was more into like the Nickelodeon crazy shows like Eureka's Castle type thing. Pee-wee's Playhouse was, there's a certain generation, especially kids that were more, 10, 11, 12, on up a little bit during the 80s. I had just turned 6 in 1990, so, I did live through most of the 80s, but I was so young that that's why I do Tales from the 90s, because my core memories of, those memories you build up as you're becoming an older kid, and then a preteen, and then a teen. Those are always your memories you always have the most, earliest, vivid memories of. Of course, you got memories of, you could have memories younger, but, and then obviously later on, but, really when you're building up your memory bank of, nostalgia, basically, it's normally, that 8, 9, 10 on kind of stuff. So, that's kind of why something like Pee-wee's Playhouse wasn't really in my wheelhouse. Maybe if I would have been, a little bit older when Pee-wee's Playhouse was really big, I might have remembered it more. But anyway, I digress here. Dink the Little Dinosaur, never heard of it before today. ABC's lineup, which featured at 8 o'clock, The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which I don't think I've seen. I don't know what was the difference between that and the old adventures. The Wizard of Oz, I've never seen that cartoon. I'm going to have to check that out. It was, they've made all kinds of cartoons based on Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters, speaking of. I remember watching that all the time. Obviously, based off of Ghostbusters. That movie franchise was huge, and of course they're going to spin it off. And of course Slimer being the obvious, kid friendly ghost type thing, was kind of like the mascot. Then at 10, Beetlejuice. We're just continuing on here with these movies and the cartoons. Beetlejuice made my Nickelodeon list too, even though I'd experienced it before then. I'm not the biggest Beetlejuice movie fan, but the cartoon I watched religiously. 10:30 a.m., New Kids on the Block. I didn't even remember they had a cartoon. Why didn't Backstreet Boys or NSYNC ever get a cartoon? But yeah, I obviously never watched that. And then we've got an hour of the Bugs Bunny and Tweety Show. Classic Looney Tunes, Merry Melodies, whatever you remember them being called best as. You can't go wrong with those. Little Rosie, never heard of that one. And then a pup named Scooby-Doo. It was when, not to be confused with Scrappy-Doo, his little nephew, the little puppy. But it was Scooby-Doo when he was a puppy. And then, as I'll tell you a little bit later, Fox Kids actually started. I'd said last week. Well, was it last week I did? No, last week was 1992. I said it wasn't Fox Kids yet. I was wrong. As I found out through research, Fox Kids actually started in this month. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But the Fox Kids lineup was a new show which premiered this month, Bobby's World. One of my favorites of all time. Howie Mandel did the voices. It was loosely based on his life as a kid. Zazu U. Never heard of that. And then we've got another Looney Tunes on another network, Tom and Jerry Kids. This is another one that premiered this month and this year. Tom and Jerry as kids. That was kind of like a theme for a while. They would take these established cartoons and show them as kids. Like a pup named Scooby-Doo, Tom and Jerry Kids, Flintstone Kids. That was just like a theme. Then we've got Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I've never seen the movie or the cartoon, but I've got the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I don't know what's going on outside. They're digging up the ground or something. But I got that song on my Halloween playlist. Pigsburg Pigs? I don't know what that is. Pigsburg, is that Pittsburgh? I hate the Steelers, by the way. And then Fox's Funhouse. I don't think I've heard of that one. Sounds to me like it's some kind of variety show. And then NBC is normally... oh, there's actually some more stuff. I'm used to NBC being normally teenagers stuff. We got Camp Candy at 8, which is, of course, based on was John Candy. He was, his movies were huge at the time. And then we've got Captain N and the Adventures of Super Mario Brothers 3. Oh, I remember that. It was like kind of split. Captain N was like a Nintendo thing. Obviously, it was all Nintendo. But the second half of it was like the Adventures of Super Mario Brothers 3, which there had been several Mario. The new Super Mario Brothers Super Show with Captain Lou Albano played Mario. But yeah, this was based obviously on the third Mario game. It was cartoon. And then we got Rick Moranis and Gravedale High. I don't remember that. Of course, Rick Moranis was a huge actor at the time too, just like John Candy. Then Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I remember him being in Little Giants, which is a couple years after this. But then we got Kid and Play. Never heard of that. Chipmunks Go to the Movies. Batmonk. That was when they had the Alvin and the Chipmunks series, but they were it'd been on for a while, so they're looking to change things up, so they make it like now Chipmunks are gonna be in the movies, kind of like a movie parody. Then we've got at 11 Saved by the Bell classic series. And then Guys Next Door, which I haven't seen before. And then Saturday Morning Videos, so I was probably not watching those. But yeah, I'm used to when I've done these before, the NBC lineup being like mostly teenage stuff. There was a lot in here that were, there were obviously, there were Super Mario Brothers 3 was probably more geared towards teenagers because that's the main video game target usually. But they were still more stuff that kids could get into. Later on, NBC would have stuff that like only teenagers really care about. They'd have the NBA inside stuff, which I didn't. I'm not a basketball fan, so I didn't care about. But yeah, I definitely would have watched some stuff on NBC during this time, and I probably did. Being 6 years old at the time, I don't remember a lot of things. Just very fleeting memories like I said. This episode seems to be talking about memory. But yeah, that's some Saturday morning cartoons. And of course, being back in the TV season, I can talk about TGIF again. Because everybody remembers TGIF from different periods. My favorite period was when they had Boy Meets World on there. This is obviously before that. We started off with Full House, which I never really watched. It's not like I hated the show. It's just I was never a fan of it, so I've never watched it. One of my wife's favorite shows, though. She's watched it multiple times, and Fuller House. But they were in their fourth season, kind of right in the middle of their run. And then at 8:30 was Family Matters. They started their second season at this time. Just really getting into it. Of course, the first season, Urkel kind of fell into their lap. They had Jaleel White on there as a guest, and like the fans reacted huge to him, and they brought him back. And starting the second season, he was added to the regular cast. And this is also the season when Harriet, which is the mom's sister, Rachel, opened her own restaurant. So that was kind of the theme going in the second season. Then at 9 o'clock was Perfect Strangers, which I have a few memories of, but I never watched. It was one of my wife's favorite shows too. They were in the 6th season, and they actually is what Family Matters spun off of. Harriet, I think, worked at, she's like elevator operator or something like that, and at this like hotel. I think it was a hotel or apartment. Like I said, I don't have much memories of Perfect Strangers, but they basically spun her off into Family Matters, and that ended up being an even bigger show than Perfect Strangers. And then at 9:30 we've got Going Places, which I have no memory of at all. It had started this month, and I only ended up having the one season because I got canceled to low ratings, so that's probably why I don't remember it. Last week I started talking about books, so I hadn't talked about books on here really, other than just basically mentioning Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark in that series, and I'd mentioned Goosebumps before, but just so happened last week when I believe it was July 1992 or June 92. The first 2 Goosebumps books had come out. Well, I've actually been looking every week. I put together my list of stuff to talk about. I look at Stephen King to see when his books came out, because I've been looking to talk about some. I finally got one this month, and it's weird. It just so happens that I have the books on CDs, 2 of them. The other 2 I'd already finished to send back, of his 4 Past Midnight series. Not series. It was a novella, 4 Past Midnight. It wasn't exactly short stories, but it wasn't exactly novels, so that's like a novella. And I've been getting from the library the Stephen King books on CD and then transfer them to my computer, so I have a huge audio collection. I did The Stand. That was 39 discs. Can't wait till I get Under the Dome. I bet that one's probably even more. But yeah, I've been doing that. But yeah, 4 Past Midnight came out in September of 1990. It had 4 stories in it. The first story, and I've read this book before too. The first story was The Langoliers, and my first experience with that before I'd read the book is it was a TV miniseries. I believe it was a 2-parter, but I remember watching it with my mom. It was one of those CBS miniseries. I have it on DVD now. But it was basically about these people that go on an airplane, and somehow, because of like the Northern Lights or something weird, they end up like going back to the past. And there's this weird guy who was actually played by Bronson Pinochet. I can't pronounce his last name. It was actually the Balky from Perfect Strangers. Played this guy, Craig Toomey, and he was always like ripping this paper. He was abused by his dad and was always told the Langoliers are going to get you if you sit there doing nothing. It was like these made-believe monsters, basically just don't sit by idly, always be busy and stuff, but like not like in a constructive way, an abusive way. So he was like convinced these things were going to get him. And turns out that these things that they end up calling the Langoliers, basically the theory is all the stuff in the past, you can't really go to it by time travel because these things eat the past. So somehow when they went to the past, spoiler alert, they get back to the future, all except the Toomey guy and a couple, I think someone he killed in there. But, yeah, the freaking, these Langoliers, they're so comically, horribly looking, but as a kid I was scared. If you haven't checked that one out, check it out. I don't know if it's on YouTube or anything like that. But like I said, I've got the DVD. Next story is Secret Window, Secret Garden, which I have here. If you've ever seen or read Stephen King's The Dark Half, it's sort of like that. And the movie adaptation of this, which was just called Secret Garden, was starred Johnny Depp. It's basically he writes a book and it gets visited by somebody who says, "You stole my book," and it turns out that it's the guy's like split personality, sort of like The Dark Half. Definitely a theme with some of Stephen King's books around this time period. The third one is called The Library Policeman, which was this guy had been scared since he was a kid about, if you don't turn your books in, the library policeman will get you. Well, this library policeman turns out to be like evil. It's not an actual person, it's more like a ghost type thing. And then we've got the Sundog, which is this one here. And it's about this Polaroid camera that's sold. And anytime that a picture's taken, there's this black dog that appears on it. And every time he takes a picture, he appears closer and closer and closer. Just one of those things that like really freak you out. It reminds me of an episode of The Night Gallery, which I don't know if you've seen that. Rod Serling, mostly known for The Twilight Zone, did a show called The Night Gallery in the 70s. You know, they would take a painting and then he'd tell a story about it, and it was usually scary. One of the first episodes I remember, it was either an episode or it was in the pilot movie, I can't remember. But it was about this painting. This guy, I think it's his nephew or something, he's like evil, and he's like purposely leaves the window open for his rich old uncle to die, so he inherits the money and the house and everything. So he dies, and then one day he's walking down past the painting, he noticed something different. Because the painting is of the house and like the family graveyard where the guy's buried. But he notices like things are changing on the painting. And then one time the grave's uncovered. And then the guy's getting closer. So it was really creepy. Man, it creeped me out. Even to see it. And I seen that as an adult, it creeped me out. But yeah, that sort of reminds me of that. Talk about video games now. Because we talked about Mario 3. It was the #1 console game at that time. I mean, of that month. Because, I mean, that was like the huge game. You know, Mario was such a huge game. And then Mario 2 came out, which was... people found weird, because I've told the story before of why that one's so different. It was Super Doki Doki Panic, I think is the title of a Japanese game. That because the original Mario 2 that came out in Japan, they sent it for Nintendo of America, and they're like, okay, people are not going to be able to beat this game. It's not going to be fun. If you've ever seen that game, it's called The Lost Levels here in America. It's bundled in with few different Mario games, and I believe you can get it on the Switch even. You can buy it to play, but it plays more like the first Mario, but just really hard levels. Anyway, the second one, they took this Doki Doki Panic game, put the Mario characters in, and it's actually my favorite Mario game of all time, probably just because of how unique it was. And plus, when I would visit my grandma Lois, she was always playing the Nintendo Mario games, and especially that one. I remember getting up at like 5 in the morning before she got up, because she would be on the Nintendo all day long. That'd be my only chance to play it. But Super Mario 3 was like huge, and obviously they made the cartoon out of it. The #1 bundle game, I guess your game is like more than one game, was still strong sales with Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. Everybody remembers that. You got Mario Brothers, and then you got Duck Hunt, and everybody wanted to shoot the freaking dog that laughed at you when you missed. I remember seeing I've got an emulator on here. There's actually a hack where you could shoot the dog. It is so therapeutic. Not that I would condone shooting dogs, but this dog in Duck Hunt, he deserved it. And the top arcade game of the month was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, obviously. The free game, if you have PlayStation Plus, one of the free games of the month, one's Sonic Colors, which I downloaded and haven't played yet, but the other one is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Cowabunga Collection. It has like 13 classic games. The Turtles arcade game, the original Nintendo Turtles games, a Game Boy Turtles games, and even some Sega Genesis Turtles games. I definitely will be playing some of those and putting them on here. I'll probably do a overall review of just how the game plays and everything, but I can't wait to get into that. It's just I've been so busy I haven't even got to play 2 free games, Sonic and Turtles. I mean, if you know me, those are 2 of my favorites. Just a couple more things to talk about this week. Sorry, it's been going long as it usually does. At least I think it has. TV. There's a lot of things that could be in September. You get your premieres. Of course, like I talked about earlier, Fox Kids premiered on Saturday mornings, along with Bobby's World. And, really, up to that point, like I said, it was ABC, CBS, and NBC with their kids' stuff. I think Fox Kids is probably the reason why NBC kind of shifted to mostly teen stuff, to try to get another avenue into ratings because between CBS, ABC, and Fox, your core kid Saturday morning cartoon watchers were watching those, so they were trying to appeal to teenagers. And I wasn't a teenager during that time, and later when I was a teenager, I was still watching the Saturday morning cartoons. So I don't know how well they did as far as NBC goes, but a bunch of debuts. Captain Planet and the Planeteers premiered on TBS. Of course, TBS was owned by Ted Turner and his wife Jane Fonda. They were both huge environmental activists. So Captain Planet and the Planeteers basically created for them. It was all about saving the planet, but done in a superhero version. But I love that show. They'd bring all the Planeteers and bring their rings together to summon Captain Planet. Sort of like, if you're a Power Rangers fan, sort of like, bringing the Zords together to create the Megazord. Law and Order actually debuted this month. No, of course, that's a long-running show. It's actually going now. The original Law and Order, they'd quit after, I don't know how many seasons, but they actually brought it back the last couple of years, and I need to catch up on all those. Of course, SVU is probably their most popular spinoff, but I do miss the regular Law and Order too, because the SVU ones are definitely interesting. The cast and the writing definitely keeps it interesting, but with it being one sort of, I don't want to really call those crimes, I'm called a genre, but I can't think of any other word for it. But Law and Order, mostly there's murder, but it would have all kinds of different elements, so it was more of a variety. But like I said, SVU definitely, like I talked about before, Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3 debuted, and Tom and Jerry Kids. Another show that debuted, which went on to become humongous, was The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, debuted on NBC. And, like I said, that was massive. I will not watch that new one. I don't care that Will Smith is involved with it. He's freaking weird these days anyway, with his weird kids wearing a house on their head and his wife controlling him, basically. But anyway, that ain't even why I don't want to watch the show. They try to make it all serious, blah, blah, blah. The reason The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air worked was because it was hilarious, for one. It was some parts of it which was just absolutely ridiculous, but they did have their moments of seriousness, and it fit in with it. It wasn't, we're going to preach you this message this week, like this new one seems to be. I don't know, I think it's in the second season. I don't know how they got a second season of that thing. There's I find, at least from the commercials, and I've seen a bunch of different commercials for it, I find no humor in it. That'd be like trying to take, I don't know, a serious movie, Titanic, and turn it into a comedy series. Oh, Rose is on another boat this week. Oh, this boat's going down. Hope she don't get onto the boat next week. As ridiculous as that plot was, that's as ridiculous as this new show. Anyway, this has been Old Man ranting about new stuff. Join us next week. Two more things actually. Tiny Toon Adventures debuted, which made my Nickelodeon list, even though I'd seen it before. I just could not include that. Tiny Toon Adventures, obviously, it was basically meant to be like the teenage version of Looney Tunes, but not the same characters. But it had Buster Bunny, it didn't have Bugs Bunny. It had Buster and Babs Bunny, which were said to be the two personalities of Bugs Bunny split into two there. So like I said, not exactly Looney Tunes as kids, more like a teenage version of, I guess it'd be their relatives. And then the CBN, which I believe was the Christian Broadcasting Network, I think. The CBN Family Channel became the Family Channel. And I remember watching all kinds of stuff on the Family Channel. I've talked about their lineups on a past episode if you want to check that out. And of course they be Fox Family, and I think they're called Freeform now, if that's the most generic sounding network you could think of. But we'll wind up the episode talking about sports. Being September, of course, the final month of baseball, but also the first month of football. So in baseball, this being 1990, if you know me, I didn't even think when I put this hat on that I was talking about this. I knew about it, but maybe subliminally I knew. But the leaders for the National League were the Reds and the Pirates, And the American League was the Oakland A's and the Red Sox. This year, they're not the Oakland A's anymore. It's just weird that, it's always weird when teams change. Like the Houston Oilers, I remember them. Then they became the Tennessee Titans, and now they have the Houston Texans. But anyway, this was the year the Reds went wire to wire. Started the season in first place, ended in first place, and they swept the A's in the World Series. And everybody thought we were going to get our butts handed to us. But speaking of the Reds, even though this happened for the Mariners, King Griffey Sr. and King Griffey Jr. hit back-to-back home runs in the first inning, which I believe is the first time that's ever happened, a father and son with back-to-back home runs. And the White Sox played their last game at Old Comiskey Park. They would move into a newer one later on, but that park was kind of crumbling on them. Players of the month, I don't actually remember these names at all, but Cal Daniels for the National League and Kelly Gruber of the American League. Like I said, I don't remember their names. Pitchers of the month, I remember Dwight Gooden, Doc Gooden, as it is more commonly known, and Dave Stewart. And then a name I don't remember, Dave Steeb, I think I'm pronouncing that right, threw a no-hitter for the Blue Jays on September 2nd. I believe was the only no-hitter in Blue Jays history, still to this day, I believe, unless I'm wrong there. But yeah, baseball season was winding up there, and that was our year of glory. And unfortunately, I was 6 years old and living with my mom. We weren't watching sports, so I had no clue. I might have heard about it at school and stuff, but I really didn't start getting into baseball. Even though the funny thing is, I was playing t-ball at this time. It's just I kind of gotten out of baseball, and it's like right at the time we win the World Series. Still waiting on another one. What are we, 35 years later? Still waiting on another World Series. We've got a shot this year, though. Our team is, and Terry Francona I can't talk. Terry Francona as manager. We've really got a shot this year. If we don't make it this year, I don't know if we ever are going to make it again. But football, hopefully if the Bengals freaking owner can get his head out of his ass, excuse the language, and sign the players we need and stop having our best defensive players like retire and want to trade, the wheels can fall off the Bengals real quick. And we become a basement team again. But actually, during the first month of the season, the Bengals were actually on top of their division. It was Bengals, the Bills, and the Los Angeles at the time, now it's Las Vegas, Los Angeles Raiders were leading the AFC. And then NFC, it was the Giants, Bears, and 49ers. The Giants would go on to beat the Bills in the Super Bowl that season. And a couple different things in football that started this year. It was the first year since 1966 where a team got a bye week. It was 16 weeks, every team played every week. They gave the teams a bye week, so now it was kind of stretched into a 17-week season, but still each team played 16 games. And a second wild card team was added to each conference, which would make the playoffs go from 10 teams to 12. And of course, there's a lot more than that now. But I actually kind of like the expanded, way. It gets, a lot more teams in, a lot more interest in games, and I believe it makes everything more competitive, and people complain, oh, this team that only lost one game all year, they got beat by a wild card team that just barely made it in. Well, then win. I mean, winning all year is good and important, and it gets you, the team with the most wins from each league gets, or conference I should say, gets that bye into the second round. All the other teams have to compete. They get the bye in the second round, and they get to be home field advantage until the Super Bowl. So, it's not like, you win all year round and then you get nothing for it. You get rewarded. It's just you gotta win. But like I said, the Bengals were first place at this time. We actually made the playoffs. We beat Houston Oilers in the first round, but then we got beat by the Raiders in the second, who would of course go on to lose to the Bills, who would lose to the Giants. So that's what you all get for beating the Bengals. And then in NASCAR news, Dale Earnhardt won back-to-back races. First at the Heinz Southern 500 at Darlington, and then Miller Genuine Draft 400, which I swear there's 4 or 5 races a year named at. That was at Richmond, and he ended up winning his 4th NASCAR championship that year. Now, as you can see why here. Bill Elliott won the Peak Antifreeze 500 at Dover. Jeff Bodine won Goody's 500 at Martinsville, and Mark Martin won the Tyson Holly Farms 400 at North Wilkesboro. So, yeah. Again, I'm not into basketball or hockey or anything. Sorry for those that are. I'm not. You know, I talked about it a little bit in the past, but I kind of stopped because it's like, you know, if I'm not talking about something that interests me, I'm just reading facts. You know, don't have any emotional connection to it. So, you know, if you want to, I almost guarantee there's podcasts out there detailing past basketball seasons and stuff. You know, if you want some basketball stuff, definitely check those out. But, just like I said, be looking for some of these bonus episodes. Friday Night Karaoke is found on YouTube and on my personal Facebook, not the podcast page, about 8 o'clock on Friday nights. The Sunday testimonials will probably be sometime after I get home from church. I mean, they're already going to be recorded, but I want to put them out on Sundays and not during church time, because not that anybody would like, I'm not going to go to church, I'm going to watch your show. But I don't want to, you know, put it during the time of church, so it'll probably be like 1 o'clock Sunday afternoons. Like I said, I haven't even created the YouTube for that, but I'm going to, and it's going to be my personal Facebook. And then, you know, the bonus episode for WrestleMania will be coming March 31st, and I never know when the watch-alongs or the play-alongs with the games are going to drop, but those will, you know, you'll see them when you see them. They'll be on the podcast page and the YouTube. Next time we're on the podcast here, though, episode 23, we're going to... I just realized I did this again. Our favorite month ever, apparently. We're going to be running out of Junes by now. June of 1995. This would be our second trip through 95. Last time was 4 episodes ago, number 17. We were in March. But at this time, I was 11 years old and just finished 5th grade. And be going into talking about, you know, getting ready for 6th grade, which was in middle school, which is a completely different school. That was like a mile from home. We had to walk, we didn't have the buses. And just doing experiences of going to orientation for that, and just feeling so overwhelmed. You know, how it is when you go to either a new school or, you know, the next level of school. But we'll get to that then. Until then, if you're watching here on Facebook or YouTube or listen to us on Spotify, I know I only put the podcast and the main bonus episodes on Spotify, but some of the other stuff, you know, I'm going to put a video game watch along on Spotify. Anyway, wherever you're catching us at, thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next time.